I'm Cris. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Runway. And what Runway basically does is we help companies like CBS, Assembly, Google, Red Lab, Facebook, VaynerMedia, Vox, RGA, and countless other companies create better video content faster and literally at a fraction of the cost they're creating it today. The way we do that is we basically build the fastest video editing experience. It's a professional editing software that runs entirely on the cloud on the web, and it's powered by some ML tooling behind the scenes that basically helps people, companies, and teams speed up their workflows significantly. And the reason we started the company is rooted in a few kind of like major trends, but the most important one I would say is what we consider that literally today every company is becoming some sort of a media company. I mean, the fact that this is being recorded right now, it's probably going to be uploaded to YouTube, it's going to be edited in multiple sequences, it's going to be shared in different channels. Kind of like proves the point of the need to create more content more often. And not just content, video itself has been growing exponentially in the last couple of years as well. And this goes solely not just for like external content. Companies are also in need of creating more internal content as it's become, I guess, more obvious as well with the COVID and the pandemic. Making that content easily accessible for everyone has also become really, really important for companies. Yet, when you think about the cost of producing content and editing video, sometimes some studios or some companies and some production companies can go up to like $5,000 per finished minute, which kind of becomes really out of hand if you need to produce multiple videos per day. I was just on a call with one of our customers, and the first thing I asked them is how many videos do you make per week, and they were estimating between 20 to 25 videos per week, which is a lot of money, as you can imagine. And it's not only a cost issue, it's not only how difficult and how expensive it is to edit and to create that much amount of content on a daily basis. It's also that the tools that we're using are not really adjusted to the reality that we're living today and the amount of content that we need to consume, right? And so for I would say the last 20 years, we've seen basically no real change in how the tools have been developed and have been optimized to allow for a new type of creators to emerge. And so if you open Premiere or any kind of like traditional software editing today, this is perhaps what you first encounter. These are standards for broadcasting television, which kind of makes sense 15 years ago. I guess, I don't know how many people are making TV ads anymore. And so this is pretty much ingrained in the tools that we use and hasn't really changed yet. I always go back to this analogy of like what editing software or editing a video looks like today. It's a very daunting process. It's very complicated. There's a lot of like buttons and triggers and technical and experiences that you need to understand just to get to the point where you can have something up and running. And so our belief as a company is that we need to basically simplify that by offering a much intuitive, a much better, a much faster, that's kind of like a key component, a much faster video editing experience. And so there are three pillars, I would say, that we base the way we develop our software. The first one, again, it needs to be really fast and intuitive. It needs to be really performant. It needs to be power and simplify. And the way we simplify things, I'm going to show a demo of how everything works, is by building really practical ML tools that speed up the process, the tedious, the time-consuming, the expensive part of editing to literally seconds of work. And the third thing is, just like I would say a standard nowadays, you need to build on the web. These tools have been traditionally tools you run on desktop, on computers, on expensive GPU machines. Building on the web is, as you say, I personally think the future. And so we build everything from the ground up to be web native. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the tools and the kind of things you can do in Runway in a demo, but that's kind of like the gist of it. And again, why kind of like our customers have started to use Runway or switch from the incumbents or the traditional tools they've been using is basically this. You can go from like hours of work to literally minutes of work or sometimes seconds of work. And that really matters a lot when you're creating that amount of content on a weekly, monthly basis. Now, some data, I guess. I wanted to, I guess, go deeper into some of the workflows that we do and how we've enabled this kind of like transformation in the video space to really happen. And I guess we're standing in the shoulders of giants. That's the first thing. There's been a lot of tools and systems and investment being put into in the last couple of years, I would say, in the ML infrastructure space basically allowing more companies like us to productionalize and take some of the what was considered research to a state of like production, right? And so we're utilizing this as a way of just iterating faster. We're not building everything from scratch. There's a lot of things we buy, we take off the shelf, and we use it if they're useful for our product and our systems. And that's how we go from what could we consider research just a couple of years ago into like actual product and actual kind of like value for our customers in just a couple of months. This is kind of like some of the reactions we've started to collect from the research community the moment we publish in Painting, which it's a tool I'm going to show you in a bit more. And this is fundamental for us. When we think about the research that we do at Runway and the data science and the data modeling that we do on Runway, it's always thought about it in the space of how useful it's going to be for our customers, and more importantly, how it's going to help our users just move faster through this creative workflows and creative editing. Something I've been fascinated for the last 4 or 5 years has been the rise of not just ML in general, but the rise of synthetic and generative content. I think it's going to completely change the way we think about content, the way we think about media, the way we think of ourselves as creatives and creators. And so what you see here is just like an example of how mind-blowing and what we should be prepared for in the next couple of years. This is a prompt that I gave a model in 2018. This is the result of that prompt. This is the same result on a model we published a couple of months ago using diffusion models. The gap between those two results and in just 4 years is astonishing. And I think we're starting to realize how important this is going to be and how impactful it's going to be for the creatives. And so when we think about our tools and when we think about the system we're building, we're always having this in mind. We keep this technology in mind. We understand that this is where creative tools will eventually go, and we're building the systems that will allow you to work more in a more collaborative way with this fairly interesting generative models and synthetic models. For this, we've kind of like have a part of the company that just dedicates itself to understand new trends and new research and new models that could be built and shipped to the product. And so we're always thinking about multimedia formats for text, for video, for audio editing, everything kind of like built in, again, inside the product. So I have 7 minutes, and I know I speak fast, so I'll try to do it in 7 minutes and show you a bit more how I put everything here into practice and kind of like how the product looks. Again, everything runs on the web, and so the moment you open Runway, let me just show you here because I have different tabs. You can navigate through all your projects really easily. A big component of Runway has been not just the editing functions, but like the media asset management. So if you ever speak with someone who edits video, they're going to tell you spend a lot of time just managing their video content and their raw content and their assets and their fonts and their animations and their alpha mats and a bunch of things they use. So managing them all in one single place as a centralized drive, you could consider it, is very essential. And so we build that from the ground up in the product itself. And so if you're working with a team and you want to share an asset, you can basically use this as a way of sharing compositions or sharing work in progresses or sharing final assets as well. You can have projects being shared by you, so you can open easily any composition from any web browser in the world without having to download any particular file or font. So I was having fun last week trying to recreate the Netflix Stranger Things intro. And so someone sent it to me, I edited it, and I kind of like remix it here, and you can just open it from there. Now, a bit of how the ML aspects and how the automation of Runway really comes into place. I'm going to open a project here. If you've ever seen an editor before, you might find similarities. You might understand the language here. There's a timeline on the bottom, and assets on the left, and a viewport on the center. This is running 4K footage in real time, plays pretty much instantly. And a few things you'll notice is like not everything, when we think about automation, not everything is about pixels and manipulation of the contents. Sometimes it's about the workflow. A big component of really good editing when it comes to putting things together in a video is about the timing. And so we think about this song in particular. There's like a clear beat. Now, matching the cuts to the beat, it's a really tedious process. You need to listen to the song, you need to match and add markers, and then move the timelines. So we basically build a model that does what we call bit snapping. It creates these snappings for you, and you can use those as guides, right? So there's no pixel manipulation. There's nothing real magic happening in the video itself. It's just like a really quick way for editors to just like move things around and match the timeline to the beat of the song. And that really creates a more compelling story when you're trying to tell something. So you can make full product ads and full kind of like videos in just literally like a few minutes. You can get as granular as you want. So if you wanna, if you want to have precision editing with keyframes, or you want to go deeper into manipulating like a layer here, you can have curve controls, and you can change the timing of that asset. You can have presets around how much control do you want. That's kind of like another story that we can go really deep if you want to go as deep as manipulating that. Now with, let me show you some of the more advanced things in Runway. This is a very common workflow in editing. You have a clip. Let's say you either want to color grade the background, you want to change or blur the subject, you want to apply some transformation. Now, in order to do this, you will probably have to go frame by frame, creating a mask of the subject that you want to remove from your object or from your scene. And that literally takes hours of work sometimes. And so we built a really intuitive system for you where you can tell Runway what is the subject or the element that you want to rotoscope or segment. And we run a real-time video object segmentation model with this ability of like personalization on the fly, allows you to kind of like preview the result in real time. And you can either export this to go back to other softwares if you're using this as part of one specific pipeline, or you can go back to your edit, to your timeline here, and do kind of like all sorts of transformations if that's needed, and that's what you're looking for. So I can quickly do something like this, and I'll just delete this, and now I have two layers. So my subject is there now. I can duplicate that subject like really easily. I can either go to my mask or to my background. Let's say I want to blur this. I have effects, so I can just blur this in real time, control the intensity of that, and just get, I don't know, as creative as I want or as much control as I want from there. Same with in-painting, or the idea of removing objects from video. This is a very common issue with editing. You have some sort of almost perfect clip, but there's just like one slight thing you don't want in that video. So two options: you go and shoot that video again, or just find another one, right? I was actually speaking with another customer the other day, and they're making a lot of like recipe and chef and like cooking videos. And sometimes the chef, when they shot the videos, they leave stuff on the table that shouldn't be there. And so if they had to remove that before, they basically had to record that same scene again, and that means a lot of time and a lot of money, as you would imagine, until they find Runway, where you can basically go into our kind of like systems here, select any frame that you want. Let's say I don't want the red chairs here because they're too distracting from the main character. I can easily and just quickly paintbrush this with this tool. Even with one hand, you see? And the model would use that individual keyframe basically to propagate it as a reference and spread it through all of the video frames. And it's basically removed, right? And that process itself in a more traditional workflow can take you, again, hours of work. And so for us, this is also very magical in the sense that you're thinking about your content in all sort of new ways. You can think about objects and things that you don't have. You want to remove them. You can think about moving objects and taking them into other scenarios really quickly, and then basically expands what's possible. Again, you can go as deep as you want with this kind of like automation tools and simplify the workflow systems. If you don't have editing experience, there are templates and presets that you can quickly use to build enough of a good video for your needs, if you want something like this, and also publish templates themselves. So if you want to do something a bit more specific, you can share a template with a team and then build from there. I can go forever showing demos, but I think I have one more second. And so I'll stop here and see if there's questions, if that's okay. Yep. Thank you.
I'll do the first one if you can
Sure.
join me. Tell me about the team and the kind of machine learning and AI talent you need to build something like this, and in particular, like how much of this is applied AI using existing frameworks as opposed to building something new?
Totally. I think we have a very unique team in the sense that it's a unique combination of creative folks with a knowledge of ML and engineering. But most of all, we're very pragmatic in how we think about deploying and training systems. We don't get lost. We try not to get lost into the discussion of what framework might be better or how do we scale this. It's more about does it work or does it not really work. And I think ML is a lot about just those way of thinking, that heuristic and that very pragmatic view of like build a model and build a system that actually helps a customer achieve X. It is to get lost, I would say, in the research terminology, on the paper publication, on a specific number or metric that you want to improve. But if it doesn't really help your product, then for us, it's like not really worth doing. And I think that binds to this a combination of like a hacker mentality, an engineering mentality, and also a deep understanding of the domain. That's how we think about the team and the research that we do, trying to combine those into one.
Great. And the kind of customers that this is great for, so there was a Colbert show, the Late Show that you mentioned. Is the product widely available to like designers that?
Yeah, the product. So we have teams.
In other words, it's not just enterprise; it's for everyone.
So yes. So we have. I mean, video is now everywhere. We have TikTok creators and YouTubers who are using Runway to create just like viral videos, and that happens a lot. And we have teams, small teams, large teams, and just production studios building like AAA movies. There was a movie that was the other day in the movies. There was there you use Runway to edit a few scenes there. A lot of ads, a lot of just YouTube ads and Instagram ads as well. We're doing Runway. So it's a self-serve system. You can just sign up, use the product online. You don't have to create an account. And then if you're gonna go really deep, you can go as deep as you want. Yep.
Very good. Do we have questions? Yep.
That video you had with the lady in the earrings, I noticed one earring wasn't interpreted as being part. Do you have to add more nodes to get it to add that earring?
You can, so it's not a fully automated system in the sense that you're not ever going to give it one single instruction or one single guidance and expect like a final result. There's always the ability for you to go as deep as you want with the control. And so if there's an earring, for instance, that you don't want or you want, you can add more keyframes and tell the model basically yes to these or no to this. There's also, I didn't show it, but there's the ability to go and like brush over like a specific subject. It gets very, that's the thing, it gets very nuanced when it comes to what you want as a user in terms of like, let's say, segmenting or rotoscoping. And so the tool has that flexibility where you can define specifically what you want. The more keyframes that you add, the better. That was like literally one keyframe, but it allows you to basically do that, yeah.
I see. So is it like a Voronoi diagram that it's generating to fill in that space?
No, it uses, we published a blog post about this. It uses a few models behind the scenes to enable that to happen. So happy to share that if you're going to go deeper into how the model works.
Very good. One more.
You showed a slide where you kind of compared, I don't know if it was a primitive version of like DALL-E on the left and the right side. Do you see Runway potentially being able to generate content with a template and some inputs similarly?
Yes, totally. I think we're not far from all of our content or most of our content being entirely generated. The content we consume as society, and not just like content, videos and images, but sound and music and voices. And so that requires a different creative engine and creative suite, and that's basically a big part of what we're building.
All right, very good. All right, last question of the night.
So In terms of where you're heading with this, do you see this ending up being a video editing suite or a feature or part of another video editing suite that's already out there?
Not part of another editing suite, for sure. I think it's more interesting for us to build a future where we have more control of where we want to take the product. We are allowing companies who are video experts to edit faster, and that's a great part of what we do. And you can integrate with Flame and Nuke and all this very complicated and professional software. But also you're opening the doors for folks who didn't have the access to this very sophisticated software to build things that look really professional. And so for us, it's also about democratizing those video workflows to open the doors for, I would consider, the next generation of creators, which it's a very interesting kind of place for us. Yeah.